Hi everybody, my name is Nayama. I'm a UX designer, and in this video I'm going to talk about the book Lean UX: Applying Lean Principles to Improve User Experience by Jeff Gothelf and Josh Seiden. I hope I spell right. So look at how beautiful. Okay, so this is a part one and I will make part two the next week. So I'm gonna not explain the book in a super academic way or a formal way, but I'm just sharing like what I understood about the book, what stood out to me, and how I connected these ideas to real experience from my own work. So I started to making these videos because this helped me refresh what I learned, and also help people who are curious about UX, product design. And honestly, this book is a great book for anyone looking for to simplify workflows, improve collaboration, and get better results. So read it; it's worth it. So before to jump into the chapters, I want to emphasize that a lot of UX work looks productive, and you spend hours designing screens, organizing layouts, picking spacing, choosing colors, but sometimes nobody stops to ask, does this actually solve the user problem? So that's exactly what Lean UX challenges. The book basically says, stop focus only on making things, start focus on learning what actually works. So chapter one basically explains what Lean UX is. And honestly, the biggest thing I understood is that Lean UX changed the way we think about design. So it's basically a mind shift thing. Let's break down more. So normally, design teams focus a lot on making things like wireframes, presentations, mock-ups, polished screens, very beautiful detail. But Lean UX says that's not the most important part. The real goal is helping users. So instead of asking, do we finish the design? You ask, does this actually make the experience better for people? And that's the big thing, the big difference here. So because users do not care how beautiful your Figma file is, they care if the experience feels easier, faster, clear, less confusing. That's what they care about. So, and honestly, this reminded me a lot of my experience working in e-commerce, especially in fashion retail. It's easy to focus only on making things look beautiful. Luxury visuals, nice typography, beautiful home pages, but sometimes the real problems are simple things like users can find the sizing information, filters are confusing, product descriptions are unclear, checkouts feels stressful, not trustful. So, and no matter how beautiful a website looks, those problems still frustrated users. That's one of the biggest things that stood out to me in the chapter one, and this is like a summarized, concise idea about the chapter one. Let's jump to chapter two. So now jump in chapter two, which the name is Principles. And so Lean UX here works in cycle. The process usually looks like this: assumptions, hypothesis, build, test, learn, repeat. So the important part is you do not assume you already know the perfect solution. Instead, you accept uncertainty earlier, you test small ideas first, then you learn for real users, then you improve. This removes like a lot of waste time. So because instead of spending 6 months building something huge, perfect, you test smaller versions first and see if the ideas make sense. Another important thing here is in this chapter is about collaboration. So here in this chapter says a lot of designers doesn't work alone. Like everybody participates at the same time. Designers, developers, product managers, stakeholders. And honestly, this is a realistic work environment because many problems that happens in a product production, like in the process of work, are not actually the product problem. It's actually about the communication problems between the team. Okay, quick interruption here. Let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow, if I'm rushing stuff. your opinion, your feedback is very important to me. So drop a comment like, hey, slow down, or like you can move faster, or it's perfect how it is. So now let's move to chapter 3. All right, so far, chapters 1 and 2 are basically introducing what Lean UX is and the main principles behind it. And the rest of the book starts taking those principles and putting them into actions. It starts breaking down how teams actually work, think, test ideas, collaborate, etc. So now let's jump in chapter 3. And this for me is honestly was the one of the most important chapters of the book, because it explains something that happens all the time in companies, which are people confusing opinions with facts. A team might say users are going to love these features, but how they actually know that? Did the users ask for it? They drop a message, I want that. I don't think so. We're just assuming people will like something because we think it looks cool. That's the problem. Okay, let me give you an example. Imagine you own a bakery and sales suddenly start dropping. And the team starts throwing ideas around. I know what's gonna make it better. Let's make a caker. What the heck? Let's make the cake prettier. Add gold glitter, make the box look luxury, add sparkle strawberries, a dragon on the top, spitting fire. Everybody's focused on creating the solution, but nobody stopped to ask, wait, why are we doing this? Why customers are not buying the cake? Maybe the real problem is the cake is too expensive. Delivery takes too long. Online ordering is confusing. People want whatever, fork instead of a spoon instead of a fork. That's what the Lean UX talks about. Instead of asking, how can we make this look cooler, prettier, you ask, what problem are we actually solving here? And this is where assumptions come in, okay? Lean UX says most ideas start as assumptions, and assumptions are not bad, okay? They are normal, because in the beginning we simply do not know everything yet. The problem is when we treat assumptions as facts before testing them. Let me give you another example. People are starting thinking users want more animations. People love dark mode. A bigger button will increase our sales. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. But the point here is they're just assumptions. Things that we think they are true, but we didn't prove yet. And honestly, companies do this all the time. People get excited about ideas because they personally like them. Competitors are doing, so let's do it too. Or just sounds smart in a meeting, But users not care at all. They might not care at all. Users are tired. Users are distracted. They're shopping 11 p.m. of the night, eating chips with 37 tabs open, listening a podcast at the same time. That's the thing. Real behavior is messy. And Lean UX constantly brings the focus back in the reality instead of personal taste. Are you understanding what I'm talking about? Instead of immediately building idea, you stop and ask, how do we know this is actually true? And that question changed everything, because now the goal is no longer, let's prove you're right, let's prove that this is beautiful. And the goal becomes, let's learn if this thing actually works. And this chapter also explains that outcomes matter more than outputs. An output is something you made, a new feature, a redesign, Output is homepage, a shiny button, like I mentioned before. But outcome is the real result. Is answering the questions. Did the user understand the things faster? Did the confusion decrease? Did the behavior improve? Did they buy the thing? That's what actually matters. And honestly, I think that's the biggest lesson from this chapter. Do not spend huge amounts of time and money building things based only on opinions and assumptions. The goal is not let's make something cool. The goal is let's make something that actually helps people. And this is exactly where MVPs comes in. Because instead of building the full giant solution immediately, Lean UX asks what the smallest version we can test first. And don't worry, I'm going to explain what the heck is an MVP in this chapter 5 soon, because there is where everything starts to connecting together and you're gonna understand better. All right, everybody, we cover here 3 first chapters, and these chapters was like what Lean UX is, the core principles behind it, and how assumptions and hypotheses completely change the way teams think about design decisions. And I think the biggest mindset shift so far is realizing that good UX is not just about making things beautiful. And the main insight in this chapter is about understanding the real problems, testing ideas early, learning what actually works for real people. And in part 2, we are going to go deeper into collaborative design, MVPs, experiments, prototypes, testing, a bunch of things. And that is where the books get so exciting and interesting, and you're gonna understand everything as a full picture. All right, thanks for watching, and I see you in part 2. Bye.